Hello there guys, my name is Mr. Yorkie's World, welcome back to the channel, and it's been a long time since I last made a video on the channel. I do apologise about that. I have had several commitments in life that needed seeing to before YouTube, and yeah, there's basically nothing else to say about it apart from that. So, we are going to be taking the Frontier A320 today, or A320 Neo to be perfectly exact, from where we are today at Orlando over to Miami. Now, I do actually own some Miami scenery. It's supposed to be the Latin VFR Miami International Airport for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Unfortunately, having tried to install it into the simulator, it was having some issues, and I don't know why, but I just could not get it to work. So unfortunately, we will be dealing with stock scenery over at Miami. But nevertheless, look at the livery that we're using right now. I got this from flightsim.to. And it actually comes with several different animals. This one is obviously the bear livery. I've got no idea whether this is relevant to this particular flight or not. We're actually going to be flying with flight number 1279 today from Orlando to Miami. I've got no idea what's happening with the placement here. The aircraft placement doesn't seem to be perfect. We're supposed to be at gate 14 and our arrival gate is going to be gate G10. G10 doesn't exist on the stock scenery for Miami, so that's going to be interesting. But nevertheless, let's get into the cockpit. So, it has been a while since I last flew in the A320. I've got the aircraft powered up on the batteries and the external power. I've also got the IRSs aligned, and I'm going to switch on the fuel pumps. This would probably not be done yet, but there we go. We can arm the emergency lights, and I'm also going to go ahead and get some interior lighting here, just to help me see, because my eyes are terrible. Nav light on, wing light on, and I will also go ahead and just check the EFB, because I've got this entire route sorted out on SimBrief, so I'm going to go ahead and sort everything out. So block fuel today is going to be 4677, so I'm going to go ahead and select that in the refuel and click the play button, just instantly refuels, there we go. Back to the overview, and you can see all the route has been loaded from SimBrief. So we can go straight to the FMC, and then what I probably will do is go to the init page there, and I'm going to click request, because this should all pull it straight from SimBrief, so there's no input whatsoever that's needed apart from the second page here. So we have to go across to the next page and just sort out the fuel as well, which will also be done as per the SimBrief plan. So that's all loaded. So fuel and payload and everything is loaded. The transition altitude is actually going to be 18,000 because we're in the US. And I'm going to go ahead and use flaps 1, and we can calculate those V speeds. So 121, 122 and 126 are our V speeds. And I can't remember whether I actually changed the signs. No, we need the seatbelts and the no smoking signs on as well. Got to admit, I really do enjoy using the simulator now, because the performance is a hell of a lot better than what it used to be on previous updates. I'm going to go ahead and just check the radios, which are switched on, so that's all good. Time to go upstairs and switch on the APU. Now, personally, I always switch on the APU bleed as well. I know you're not probably supposed to do that, but that's what I do. The crew supply is on already, so that's okay, that's no problem. And to be honest, there's not much setup really that needs to be done now, apart from the SIDS and stars and stuff like that. So let's go to KMCO, which is where we are at the moment, and let's just go to the OFP. I always take notes on SimBrief and just leave myself a few notes here. So it's going to be a runway 36 right departure today, using the Danny 1 SID. So departure, we can go ahead and find 36 right, which is there. And then we need to choose the Danny 1 SID, which is there, and we can insert it. Now, with this being a short flight, I'm also going to go ahead and go to KMIA and input the arrival. So the arrival is going to be the Custal 1 arrival for runway 30 over at Miami. So we can click on the destination and arrival, and we need to find runway 30, which is there. And then we can find the Custal 1 star, which is there. So insert, And apart from that, we just need to go through the route and make sure that there aren't any discontinuities. In terms of boarding, that's already been completed. We did that before I started recording, and we did the fuel shortly afterwards, which was actually caught on recording, so that's okay. So we'll go to plan, and I'm still trying to remember how to do this. So I think you go to the flight plan page, and then you can go through, and it should show you. There we go. It should start moving. So we're going to have a look for any weird routes or weird waypoints that shouldn't be there. There's one. The Danny, or no, board waypoint. So we're going to get rid of the board waypoint. So clear, and just click on it, and then insert. And hopefully that should have got rid of that weird waypoint that we don't need. Which it has. There we go. It's a lot more realistic now. Sort of smooth transition between waypoint to waypoint. That's what we're looking for there. All the way down onto the approach, which is there. And if we keep going, it will take us basically to the end of the flight plan, which is what it says on the FMC there, so that's fine. No problem. So we can go back to ARC mode, and the next thing we need to do really is to set the cruise level, which is going to be flight level 230 today. So we haven't got any ATC today, so we're going to go straight to our cruise, which is 230. We can put that into the MCP there, ready. I'm going to go ahead and switch on the VORs on both sides. And to be honest, I think that's about it. So we've literally just got a request for the jetway to be disconnected. Again, we don't have any ATC, so we're not going to have to request clearance or pushback or anything. We'll just do all that manually. So request jetway disconnection. There we go. And we can move on to pushback and start. Now I'm not using the pushback tool, a third-party pushback tool. I'm just going to do it manually with Shift P, and basically it's going to take us straight back. So what we'll do then is just manually sort of align ourselves with the taxiway. If we had GSX in the simulator, that would be an absolute game changer, literally. It would be fantastic. We've got the fuel pumps switched on, and we are about ready. I'm going to switch on the strobes to auto. The beacon light can come on. And that is about it, really. External power's disconnected. So we should be about ready. I'm going to go ahead and switch to ignition mode, or start mode. And we'll do engine 2 first. So sometimes it can take a while for the engine to begin spooling up, but you can already hear it if you listen carefully. So that is engine 2 beginning to spool up, and we can see already the tug is getting into position. Again, I've got no idea what's happening with the ground equipment there. Everything seems to be sort of merging into one. Loving the sounds in the FlyByWire A320. So that's engine 2. We're going to try engine 1 now. Same procedure. There it goes. Can set the parking brake, and I will arm the speed brakes while we're at it. We can also set the flaps, which is going to be flap 1, so there we go. You can see those coming down. Beautiful, beautiful wing view there. To be honest, it's just a beautiful view anyway. I mean, look at the clouds. It looks absolutely amazing. So we are just waiting for engine 1 to become available to us, and then we will be ready to go. And there we go, it says avail, which means engine 1 and 2 are now available to us. So we should be ready for taxi, really. So ignition back to the normal. We can come upstairs and switch off the APU. The taxi lights can come on, as well as the runway turn-offs there. And aside from that, I think we are about ready. So, auto throttle armed, but it won't arm at the moment. I'm assuming it will automatically arm itself once we actually start the takeoff roll. Right, okay, so parking brake is released. We can power up and start the turn to the right, just to line up on the taxiway. Again, if we had GSX for Microsoft Flight Simulator, this might be a little bit easier, but it's nothing that we can't overcome in the meantime. You can see I've got my FPS counter in the bottom right. I'm using MSI Afterburners built-in sort of FPS counter, so unfortunately it does say D3D11 and then the FPS, but there we go. Gives you a good idea of the performance that we're getting at the moment. Absolutely loving the graphics, look at that. Beautiful. Apart from a little bit of stuttering, it looks absolutely magnificent. So as ever, the route to the runway is going to be slightly long, so I'll catch up with you in just a second. And as if by magic, here we are at the threshold for runway 36 right. And I'm just trying to slow down ever so gently. It's very difficult when you're using the trigger on a joystick rather than a set of rudder pedals and some toe brakes, but there we go. I like to do things the hard way. There we go, that'll do. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm actually just going to look to the left and right. There's no traffic enabled, so I know that it's going to be clear, but just look at the graphics, look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous clouds. We can sort out the lights, so landing lights can come on, taxi lights to takeoff mode, strobe lights are on, and everything else is set. TA and RA with the transponder. Parking brake is released, and we can start to line up. Easy does it. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. If anybody's wondering what settings I'm currently using in the simulator, I am actively going to be updating those because the ones on my website at the moment at mryorkiesworld.co.uk are a little bit out of date. But in general, I do use sort of high to ultra settings. So anyway, here we go, lining up on 36 right, and I'm literally just going to do a rolling takeoff. So we're going to advance the throttles just to make sure that we are stable, which we seem to be. So we can go toga. Here comes 80 knots. There's V1 and rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Look at that view. That is absolutely astounding. Beautiful, beautiful wing view on the way out of Orlando. And I think I'm going to manually fly this turn to the right, just to get a feel for the aircraft again. It has been a little while since I hand flew the aircraft for more than a few seconds before engaging the autopilot. So we can now go to climb mode. Just trying to follow the flight director as best I can. But look at that, that is absolutely magnificent, isn't it? And it will soon be time to retract the flaps, and we're actually going to do that now, to be fair. I think we're safe enough. Lovely wing view there as the flaps come in. This is absolutely, look at that, absolutely gorgeous. Just under 30 FPS, not too bad. 35, 36, lovely and smooth, a little bit of stutter, but there we go. I'm going to go ahead and switch off the runway turn-off lights. And we'll leave everything else as it is just for now. But look at that, above the clouds. Simply cannot beat it. I think, to be honest, the simulator just keeps getting better and better. There are a few flaws in it, but overall it's getting better and better with every single update. Just a shame that I couldn't get the scenery for Miami to work in the simulator. I don't know what's wrong with it, but nevertheless I'm happy. Whenever we can get views like this with virtually no sort of Orbex Global or anything like that in this simulator, I will be happy. So looking at the screens there, it does appear that the aircraft is having a little bit of difficulty following the route. The next waypoint there doesn't seem to have any line joining it from where we are at the moment to it, so I'll sort that out in a moment. Let's just retract the landing lights and switch off all the other unnecessary lights. We are above 10,000 feet. Let's just make sure that 230 is set in the MCP, which it is, but we need to get rid of that dot there. There we go. And then we can start having a look at this issue with the waypoint. I think I'm going to have to go in and request direct to the next waypoint. So, how do I do it? What am I doing here? Let's go to... DIR, there we go, direct. And let's just type it in. So the actual waypoint that we need is going to be... Let me have a look back on the flight plan page, because that'll tell us exactly where we need to be. So it's UK. So UKA YY direct. Click it again, direct, and that should take us... There we go. That's got us a little bit more on track. Not entirely sure why that happened. I know it can happen sometimes in the simulator, especially with the fly-by-wire. But look at that. So this is the OFP. This is what I've got from SimBrief. Again, I always like to put a little bit in the dispatch remarks just to help myself out in the simulator, so I'm not scrolling up and down everywhere. The ILS information is already preset from SimBrief, so that's all good in the Navrad page. Don't need to worry about that, and it matches as well. 111.70304, that's perfect. So again, this is a relatively short flight. It's about an hour and just a few minutes long, so it's not going to take us that long really. So without further ado, look at that view. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and set some lovely cinematics going as we head over to Miami. So I'll catch up with you guys in a few minutes. Right, okay guys, so as you can see, we are just coming up on an altitude restriction, which is going to be 16,000 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and program that in so we can start our descent now. And hopefully we can get to the right altitude at the right time. We might need to use a little bit of speed brake, I'm anticipating, just to get everything under control. But you can see that we are programmed for ILS runway 30. The information is already there in the radio nav page. And we've already set up everything in terms of the winds, the QNH, the temperature. Everything has been set up. We're using radio 200. Our final approach speed is 121 plus 5, which is going to be 126. And we're going to be using flaps full today. So that is us basically sorted. We're probably going to be using medium auto brake as well. We don't really need max, so we'll use medium. And of course the good thing about Avlosoft's EFB version 2 is that it tells us whether we're too high, too low, when we need to start the descent, and basically where we are in the world as well, both in the air and on the ground. It really is a useful tool. So you can see the next speed restriction after that is 250 knots at 13,000. So we can plan ahead for that, and we know exactly where we need to be at what time. Now in a second I'm probably going to go ahead and use some speed brake, purely and simply because I don't think we're going to be able to make it to 16,000 and then 13,000 at the same time as managing to actually get down to 250 knots. It's just not going to work. So, lovely, lovely views there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to enable the speed brakes, just extend them, just to see if it helps with that descent and that speed at the same time. There we go. So that should help with the speed and rate of descent and everything. I'm going to catch up with you guys a little bit later on when we are a little bit closer to our destination. Right, okay guys, so we are literally just on the last leg now. We're going to make a right turn shortly, which will take us directly onto the ILS for runway 30. We managed to take control of the speed, and we are now at 3,000 feet, which is the final approach fix for runway 30. We've also just enabled the localizer there, so that will begin to capture that. 190 with the speed, and we should start to see the aircraft capturing the localizer now. Once that's fully established, we'll be able to enable the approach mode as well. Looks like we're going to overshoot it a little bit, but there comes the localizer diamond. Just going to check 126 is still going to be our final approach speed. Very, very early to be doing this, but I'm going to take it down to that final approach speed right now. Not going to drop the gear just yet, not until we are fully established on the ILS. We can, however, extend those flaps to full now. So the aircraft is just literally trying to capture the localizer. We overshot it a little bit, so it's just trying to get back on profile. We've got a crosswind of 9 knots at the moment. Shouldn't pose too much of a difficulty. Lovely wing view. And the other side. And we can see the glide slope diamond is slowly starting to make its way into the middle there. We're fully established on the localizer. Just waiting for the glide slope, and then we'll be able to drop the gear. Looking good at about 45 FPS, roughly. Maybe dropping a little bit now as we approach. But look at that. Scenery is absolutely gorgeous. There's Miami over there. It would be interesting to see maybe like an overhaul of the graphics around the Miami area. I know the buildings look fine at the moment, but when you get close up they don't, and that seems to be an issue sort of worldwide in the simulator at the moment. But as we get more and more updates, it does look promising. I mean, look at that, that's not too bad really. Lovely, lovely wing views. So, there we go, I'm going to go ahead and drop the gear now. Always amazing to see the gear coming down there with the sunshine in the background, lovely clouds. And we have of course enabled the approach mode, fully established on the ILS now. I like the reflections as well in the water, they just look amazing as well, don't they? So again, the airport scenery, that's 2,500. The airport scenery for Miami is unfortunately going to be stock. It's not actually the payware scenery that I've got from Latin VFR. I could not get it to work in the simulator in this particular version. No idea why. So we are going to be dealing with stock scenery. And I don't think the gate that we need to be at exists in this stock scenery either. So that's going to be even more interesting. So we're essentially just going to pick a random gate to arrive at. Nevertheless though, the runway is in sight. We're going to wait while about 1,000 feet and they'll disconnect. but we're on profile. We will just arm the speed brake. That's one thing I forgot to do there. It's a good job we remembered. And you can sort of see what I mean with the buildings there. They don't look amazing, do they, up close? It's a bit all over the place, really. As I always say, though, this simulator is not intended really to be sort of walking around in the city. It's supposed to be flying around above the ground. So most of the stuff you're seeing, you're not really going to see up close unless you purposely want to. So that crosswind is now at about 11 knots. Still not a problem, we should be okay. Again, I'm going to wait while 1,000 feet and then we can sort of disconnect and see if we can still remember how to fly and land this bird. It's been so long. There are a ton of things that I need to do. I need to update my website at mryorkiesworld.co.uk with the latest settings that I'm using, and all the add-ons and stuff like that. I need to update those. But apart from that, I'm getting back into things. Coming up on 1,000 feet now.
1,000.
There it is. I'm going to disconnect straight away. The aircraft is now mine. A little bit of that well-known stutter as we come in for approach, which is not my favourite thing in the world. Trying to just keep a hold of the diamonds there on the PFD. Trying to keep them in the middle as much as I can. Both the glide slope and the localizer. Pappies are looking good at the moment. 2 red, 2 white. There's 500 feet. A little bit low now, so I'm going to try and correct that, just lifting the nose up ever so slightly. There we go, back on profile.
300.
And that wind has now dropped
200.
to 3 knots. Lag spike there. And we didn't get a minimums for some reason.
50, 40, 30.
Idle throttle.
20. 10. 5.
Touchdown. Reversers. Oops. No idea why that's happened. Must be a problem with the reverser axis, but I have stowed them. We are okay. I'm going to take this next exit here to the right hand side. Look at that, lovely view. Again, it's a pity about the scenery, but there's not a lot I can do about that. Obviously, once we exit the runway here, I am going to have to stop and just take a look on EFB to see exactly where we are and where we need to be. It's going to be a random gate, I think. But flaps are on the way up. Speed brakes are up, reversers are stowed, everything's sorted. I wouldn't say the stock scenery is terrible here at Miami, but it's not the best. Right, okay, so if we stop about here, and I'm just going to take a quick look and see where we are, and do a bit of clean-up in the meantime. VORs, landing system and flight director and everything can be turned off. We don't need those now. We'll start the APU. Taxi lights on, landing lights off and retracted. Strobe lights can come off. And I think that's about it, so I'm just going to take a look on EFB and we will try and find out where we need to be on the ground, because this is not going to give us the same gate as what FlightAware did. So I'll be back in just a second. Right, okay, so I've got a rough idea of where we need to be. We're just going to go and find a random gate, I think. We're not even going to go to like a predefined one, because there is in fact AI traffic parked at some of these gates, and I've got no way of knowing whether the one that EFB would tell me to go to would have traffic at it or not. So without further ado, I'll see you in a sec. Right, okay, so this is my terrible ability to actually brake correctly. We found a gate. It doesn't look the best terminal building in the world because it's stock. We're going to try and stop where we should stop, but it probably won't happen. You know what? I'm just going to leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that. External power. Cut the engines. Welcome everybody to Miami. So, that took approximately 41 minutes of flight time. So yeah, even though it said like an hour and 3 minutes, but I'm assuming that's not factoring in ground time. We're going to go ahead and request the jetway. Now sometimes it doesn't work, you just literally have to click it again and it will work. Same with the baggage, sometimes it... there we go, we don't know where the baggage is. If you click it again it will... Must be some sort of bug there. But nevertheless, welcome once again everybody to Miami. This has been a very, very short flight. What the hell is happening with the camera here? I needed to change the speed that the camera... I'm literally... This is like a snail at the moment. There we go. So, camera issues aside, and every other issue that we've suffered in this flight, welcome everybody once again, and for the final time, to Miami. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I am going to be trying to make some more full flight videos on the channel, and I hope you guys appreciate the amount of time and effort that these things cost. It's... You know, it doesn't just take 2 minutes, it's a very, very long process, so that's one of the main reasons that I haven't been making content for a while. That and the fact that I've had other commitments in life. But no, thank you very much guys, I've really enjoyed it, I hope you did too. Leave me a like if you liked it, leave me a request if you've got a full flight video that you would like to see. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and you can also support the channel through my Patreon page or through the other methods that are listed in the description, should you wish to do so. Thanks very much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.